Hello and welcome to the Introduction to Fusion Procurement Cloud Training Center. This and every FAST training center is designed for anyone who wants to learn more about Oracle's Fusion Cloud applications in minutes, not hours. This training center discusses global FPC or Fusion Procurement Cloud topics like procurement types, request types, creating value using FPC, creating a global shared service with multiple legal entities type of setup, transaction accounting, procurement taxonomy, etc. This training center is part of the FAST Procurement Cloud training group. As you can see here on the right, there's 2 overview, meaning an introduction and kind of a capstone or an end-to-end config and use training center, as well as 10 transactional training centers. Content highlights by action. So as you can see here on the left, there are learn contents such as procurement services, apps, functional work areas, transactions and their sequence, etc., which we'll go to in the next slide. There's some use topics like catalog versus non-catalog, or walking through some of the different flows of catalog. There's configuration topics like the taxonomy, procurement transaction accounting, this global shared service. There's integration topics like connecting to OBN. And there's also deployment styles or deployment videos talking about different ways that it's deployed. So with that, let's go ahead and jump out of this particular presentation and we'll jump over to the OraCloud Plus website, which is www.oracloud.plus. From here, you'll go into the menu here, the navigator in the upper left, select FAST Training Centers. You want to scroll down to Procurement, and here is our Introduction to FPC Training Center. Go ahead and select that option. This will take you inside the Introduction to Procurement Cloud Training Center, since this video here. And then I just want to quickly go over the different videos here and the different options. So as you can see under the Learn menu option, where it's really designed to teach conceptual topics, there's a procurement services video, and this is a series of videos. If you look from within Learn, procurement services is one, but within procurement there's purchasing services and then also sourcing services. So those are 2 other videos. There's a Fusion Procurement Cloud overview. It talks about all the different work areas and the functional work areas, or sometimes what's called the applications within Fusion. And then you can see here procurement framework. This just talks about the different transactions and their sequence within Fusion. It's kind of given in a train stop like format. Request types, we'll talk about catalog versus non-catalog, so it's requests at a very high level. Procurement types talks about all the different types of procurement. So within, let's say, catalog request types, there is informational, local, punch out, etc. And then if you go non-catalog, there's different variations that invoke different combinations of different transactions. So that's procurement types. There's an overview to process flows, just talks about a couple different kinds of process flows, swim lanes or app flows, etc. And then a quick start guide. Then there's the big FPC business process architecture. So all of the different transactions and how they fit together on swim lane flows within Visio within Fusion Procurement Cloud. And so there's an entire video and it walks through all of those. And then lastly, how to create video within FPC. So those are the learn topics, or teaching you what something does. Now, if you want to learn how to use it, so for example, in the intro, we've got FPC seeded data, how to access the FPC or seeded environments for Fusion Procurement Cloud, walkthrough of a catalog purchase. So not just a requisition, but the whole purchase when it relates to catalog. So when do you use an agreement? When do you use catalogs? When do you use what type of requisition? So then you see the same non-catalog purchase in a simplified format, and then all non-catalog, what we call all transactions. So it kind of walks through, again, if you think about how we laid out in the procurement framework, the different steps, when you get here into non-catalog all transactions, you're really getting a walkthrough of all of the different transactions and how they would get deployed from sourcing to contracts to agreements to catalogs, etc. So that's under the use menu option. Again, learn is more of pre-deployment or what something does. Use is more to the business user, how to use it, create it, change it, see it. Now, when you get into configuration, it's around apps, roles, security, approvals, notification, and data management, and subdivided within applications for the intro training center, how to enable apps, configure apps, or where to go. Then this concept of procurement taxonomy. So this is the different item categories or browsing categories and how they're kind of woven through configuration. A little bit about transaction accounting, and then this procurement shared services. So how do you create a global shared service with multiple legal entities in it? That's what that video explains. Then we've got some integration videos. We've got Oracle Business Network, or OBN. We're adding more of these pretty consistently. Again, these would be high level, right? When you look at OBN, it crosses different transactions. So we wouldn't see it in a transactional training center. That's why it's here in the intro, conceptually explaining it. From a deployment standpoint, we have these wraparounds. So we call them legacy wraps or wrappers. And so if you want to wrap, for example, sourcing services, so that's suppliers, supplier quals, sourcing, and contracts around, let's say, legacy applications, that's legacy wrappers. That's what that video walks through. And then, as with You Have Everywhere, we have some OraDocs links. You can go to any of the different OraDocs for how to see what Oracle's documentation on a given topic is. And then lastly, updates and FAQs here in this training center, or in this menu option. So that's really an overview of what we've got here in the Introduction to Procurement Cloud Training Center.